But it just so happens that the vast majority of the time, the decisions that you make coincide with the decisions that Jackie Mann has instructed you
I
to
will
do.
not say vast majority.
I'm going to object to the question. It's argumentative.
Well, other than the one time that you've pointed out, are you able to point out any other times that you didn't do something that Jackie Mann instructed you to do?
Asked and answered, broad and vague. Answer if you can.
Yes, I am my own person, and while I am new to this role, or while I was new to this role, and this is you're constantly learning and growing and discovering things, I make my own decisions.
Okay. It just so happens that they coincide. Is that fair?
I'm going to
Not all of them.
Okay.
argumentative.
Have you ever discussed MPSU fraud directly with Teresa Fowler?
Yes, our very first meeting, I believe she shared some things. She did not go into detail, but she shared concerns as an employee of the district speaking to an elected official.
Okay. And about when was that? When she made that first contact with you?
It was a while ago.
Okay.
I don't recall exactly when, but it was I think long enough to say it was a while ago.
More than a year?
Maybe.
Okay. And whenever that time was, between now and that time, can you point to any steps that you've taken to investigate any of the allegations made by Teresa Fowler?
Me as an individual or as a collective board?
We'll start with you as an individual. Thank you for that clarification.
Yes, I've held town halls as an elected official to encourage people to come out and to share their grievances, reflect, share ideas, hold me accountable, provide me with more context. So I've done that aspect of work as it pertains to my elected duties. As a collective board, where in order to change a policy or make an action, there is a majority vote needed, and we have not engaged that much about this subject matter.
Okay. Have you ever discussed the subject with Bob Peterson?
I am I don't recall. We've had discussions, but I don't recall any specifics of this.
How about Marva Herndon?
Not individually. Not either of them individually. Let me reframe that. And as a group, yes. Individually, no.
Matthew Chasen?
Yeah, in passing. Well, not in passing, but yeah. During times where we've discussed budgets, where we've discussed some other data, trends in the data, that's where the budget discussions and the accountability aspect of budgeting comes in, and it has been mentioned, not in depth, but it has been discussed.
Has the board taken any action with regard to the complaints from Teresa Fowler?
I don't believe so.
Okay. What more could Teresa Falderon have done to have the board take action on the complaints?
I'm going to check the forum questions. Broad and vague also calls for speculation on the part of this witness, but go ahead and answer if you can.
If I'm understanding that question correctly, what more could she have done? I think she did all that she could. Given the circumstance and the policies, procedures, I am under the impression that there were discussions. The discussions led to complaints that were filed formally, but the process was followed to get to where we are right now. And so I think in that case, I believe that she's done all that she can.
Has the board taken any action?
Object to the forum questions. Broad and vague also been asked and answered, but go ahead and answer it again if you can.
And I appreciate that, and let me back up there, and I'll withdraw that question. Part of what I understood you to say was that there was some kind of discussions or something, okay? And I just want to distinguish those kind of actions from a formal action, and that's, I think, why I use that word. So I'll distinguish, that's what I'm saying, has there been a formal action?
There has not been a formal action.
Okay. And because I also understood you to be saying that where you used the phrase "where we are today." Okay,
Yes.
what does "where we are today" mean in reference to MPSU?
In reference to Teresa Folaron, when I am asked, do I believe that she's done everything that she could? I am referencing from the time of the alleged harm or discriminatory acts to making individuals aware of that internally, to then filing a formal complaint, to then bringing it to the attention of the board, to then pursuing legal action. That's what I'm referring to as it pertains to that question and Teresa Folaron and MPSU. So I do believe that that's the process. Or
I got it.
Yeah.
So, as a board member, do you believe prior to Teresa Folaron filing this suit that she made the board aware of her concerns?
I do. In my observations of Ms. Folaron and just seeing her visibility at board meetings, from the signs to the written correspondence, yes.
Okay. And has the board ever considered any action related to Ms. Folaron's concerns with MPSU?
Honestly, I don't recall us ever reaching that point in our sessions, because this is a legal matter. And so this would have been something that would have been discussed in executive session with an attorney present, but we haven't reached that point.
Well, you never made any motion to the board regarding this MPSU at all, right?
No. When you say motion, elaborate, because I mean we make motions all the time regarding budgets that ultimately impact MPSU, and so there's other actions. When you say motion, specifically, what are you referencing?
That's fair, because I would like to then draw the distinction between the complaints, the legal complaints made by Ms. Folaron and the, let's say, you're aware of the Baker Tilly audit, right? Okay, and you're also aware of the response to the Baker Tilly audit, right? And there are,
Yes, sorry.
thank you. And there's at least 8 concerns in that response, isn't that true?
I am not familiar with the exact number, but I know there are numerous concerns.
Okay, would it help you to see that document?
Yes.
Okay. This one, which is Exhibit 11 here from the pages. Can you identify that document when you're ready?
Yes.
Okay, what is that document?
This is an audit of MPS University.
Okay. And okay, and that audit, if you'll just glance at the last page, for example, it will say something along the lines of areas of concern or something like that, number 8. There's numbered.
That's the last page.
Number 8, okay.
Do you see
Finding
that?
number 8?
Findings.
Yeah.
Is that what it is? Okay. So there are numerous findings in this document, I believe at least 8. Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay. So I want to contrast, thank you very much, these findings here with the complaints made by Teresa Folaron. Okay? So we'll say findings and complaints. You with me on the language so far?
Yes, I am. Do you have the actual official complaint of Teresa, or it's not? I mean,
No, that's not it.
yeah.
I don't think it's been marked.
I'd like to be able to do a side-by-side comparison.
Okay, and I get that, and maybe we'll get that afterwards, but just for this question here, I'm just trying to understand make a distinction between findings and the complaints, okay? And because I understood you to say that there was a legal matter, and that therefore that you weren't acting on the legal matter, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and when you said legal matter, you're talking about the Teresa Folaron complaint, right?
The formal complaint filed, yes.
Okay, but this audit is a separate avenue, for use of a lack of a better word, to address these concerns. Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay, so when I'm talking about the findings in this document, what I'm trying to ask you is, has the board taken any official action on these findings?
No.
No, okay. And to expand that, have you ever made a motion with regard to these findings?
No, and what I will say is, no.
Okay, what more could Teresa Falderon or any MPS employee have done to get you to take any action based on these findings?
Check the following questions, broad and vague, calls for speculation. Go ahead and answer if you can.
I don't believe there was anything more that could have been done.
Okay, so no matter what anybody had brought to your attention, you were never going to take any action on the MPSU situation, correct?
I'm going to object to the following question. It's argumentative. Black's Foundation calls for speculation. Go ahead and answer if you can.
What I will say is this: when the matters were presented to me, as stated earlier, initially it was presented in an executive session where an attorney was present and it had already been filed. I am not aware of what occurred prior to me serving on the board, but when I first learned of it, it was during that time of which this audit was not presented. And so typically how things go with on the board governance side, if we are not in an executive session where it's publicly noticed, we as board members, aside from talking to one other board member, we're not able to discuss these matters. We are legally restricted. And so because of that, this had not been discussed with the other board members, and because it has not come back before us, we have not made any actions on it. Does that make sense?
Sure, but that's purely your choice, right?
No, that is restrictions that are mandated through the state legislation where board members, unless it's a walking quorum, unless it is publicly noticed, we are not able to engage with more than another board member, hence the reason why we can't make decisions.
Sure, but you can't hide behind the public records law to say that the public records law is what kept you from making a motion in this case, right?
I'm sorry, I'm going to object. That's argumentative. It's compound and it's broad and vague. Go ahead and answer if you can.
I don't think open records law is the issue that I'm referencing specifically. What I am speaking to is when I'm being asked about what decisions are being made. Decisions are made by the majority through a voting process where you need the majority votes, whether it be on the committee or as a full board. So I, as one school board director, cannot make any sound decisions that are guided by actions without the entire board being present. And when it is a legal matter where council is involved, we are not at liberty to make any moves without discussing it, understanding the legality aspect of it, and then proceeding as a collective board.
So did I understand you correctly that you are not at liberty, is the word that you used, to make a motion with regard to MPSU until you discuss it with other board members and the attorney? Did I understand that right?
No.
Okay.
So first thing, if it's not on the agenda, it's not a matter that's being discussed.
Okay.
Which then means there is no opportunity to make a motion. The times that this has been presented on the board where board members are present to be able to make decisions, it was initially presented and there were no decisions to make because of an investigation process and the due process of it all. And so even in that space, there was no opportunity to make a motion without going through the investigation process. And again, we've only been in that space maybe a couple times. So I, as one board member, cannot make a motion on something that is not on our agenda and that is not being discussed in that space with the majority of board members present.
Sure. So what I understood you to say was that never came up. Is it true that MPSU has never been discussed on an agenda?
The times when I recall MPSU being on the agenda, it clearly explicitly stated that there is a recommendation to go into closed session to discuss the matters, again, because there was a formal complaint that required an attorney present.
And there's nothing stopping you as an elected official from saying, I'd like to make an alternative motion, right?
I'm object to the form of the question. It's broad and vague, it's argumentative. She's answered this question at least 3 times. If you don't understand the answer, then move on to something else.